On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast, Tesla Motors officially changes its name. One state tries to ban Tesla's sales model, but employees, owners, and fans fight back. A country in Europe uses a popular video game to try and woo Gigafactory 2, and more. Howdy, fellow Tesla fans. I'm Ryan McCaffrey. Welcome to Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors, although maybe not so much. We'll get that in a second. Unofficial podcast. It's episode number 79 for February 5th, 2017. Another rainy night here in San Francisco as I record. It's been a wet winter, but at least we're officially out of the drought. I wanted to start this week by noting something. You know, as I've mentioned before, I'm continually seeing more and more Model X's in the Bay Area now, which is to be expected. You know, this is HQ for Tesla. This is their home turf. I see S's every day. X's are becoming nearly a daily sight around here. And I'll tell you, what I wanted to mention was that I spotted a multi-coat red Model X on the road earlier this week. And it got me thinking, you know, of all of the Model X's that I've seen, I feel like anecdotally, red is by far, with the X, the rarest color. Like, I see a fair number of red S's, but I've literally seen, in the entire time the X has been out, I think I've seen 3, maybe 4 red Model X's. So it seems to be, just again, purely anecdotal, but the Model X buyer seems to be less interested in red than the Model S buyer, which I guess makes a bit of sense if the X is going to be aimed a bit more at moms specifically, women, families, whereas the S, you know, we have statistics that show that the S is very much a dude mobile. It's like something like 80, forget what it was, something like 80% of registered Model S's were to men. And it is definitely a sportier car, both in look and performance. But yeah, nevertheless, like I said, I know it's anecdotal, but the fact that there aren't that many paint colors at all makes it a bit easier for me to make that claim. I do still, of course, put the asterisk on it because I'm just talking about my own observation of the Bay Area, but I just found that interesting. I started thinking about that. In time, though, when I thought about it even more, titanium metallic is going to end up being the rarest Model X color, with the exception of signature red, because, of course, signature red was limited to the first 1200 or 1250 Model X's. But remember, titanium metallic was discontinued relatively early in the X's life. So those are going to be the ones that will become rare if you're the type of person that likes to have, because like me, I kind of like having a car that there aren't 7 million of on the road, like the exact configuration. Like my Infiniti now that I've had, like I said, for 11 years now, it's in a color that I don't see super often that I like, and it's got the spoiler with some side trim that most of them don't have. So I kind of like that. I've hardly ever seen one that's exactly my configuration. So if you're that kind of person, you're looking to buy an X, well, you can't get a titanium metallic one now, nor can you get a signature red one now. But maybe, who knows, if you're looking in the secondary market, in the CPO or private seller, and you're thinking, what could I get that not a lot of people have? Sig red is an option, although you'll probably have to pay some sort of premium for that even on the secondary market. But titanium metallic, that sort of champagne color, is going to be the one that I think in time, unless they discontinue another color, will be the rarest one. Or change color. Like, remember, blue on the S changed from the dark metallic blue, the super, super dark blue that's almost black, particularly at night, to the more ocean blue, the lighter blue that we see now on the S and the X. I see a number of blue. I feel like I see blue X's. They're fairly common in the sightings that I see relative to the other colors. but white, and I feel like I do see blue X's more than blue S's, and of course there are so many more S's, but yeah, blue seems to be a popular choice on the X. But again, white, I will go to the mat on this one. The white on the Model X is just extremely common. It does look really good on the car. Don't get me wrong, white, that front end where it's just all color rather than there's no fake nose, there's no nose cone there, there's no grill there, where it's just paint. That white really looks striking up front, particularly in my humble opinion, when you pair it with the 22-inch black Onyx wheels. But anyway, just thought that was a silly little anecdote I would share for those of you that might not live in areas that have quite as many Teslas, where you're lucky to maybe see one or two around town. Getting to this week's news, I wanted to start with a story that is not a surprise, but it is interesting nevertheless. Tesla has dropped the Motors from its name, officially becoming just Tesla. Obviously, the company they've been telegraphing this for quite some time, so this is, as I said, this is no surprise. You remember they acquired the Tesla.com domain name from that guy who'd owned it for quite a while. Of course, they bought Solar City. They've been selling power walls and power packs for a while. They are an energy company by their own admission, and very much true to Elon's mission statement for the company, which, by the way, I haven't quizzed you on in a few weeks, so say it with me. Wherever you are, go ahead and don't worry about making the people around you think you're weird. Tesla's goal is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable transportation and energy. But yeah, I guess I'm going to have to start calling the show. I got to get in the habit now of saying Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, rather than the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast. But there you go. No longer just a car company. Cars are simply a means to an end for Tesla, though they always have been, to be fair. But now it is official and in the name, or not in the name, as it were. No more motors. Next up this week, Indiana is introduced. This was an interesting week. I'm glad I'm recording the show now here at the end of the week, because this story changed rapidly. Indiana had introduced a ban on direct auto sales by manufacturers, by car manufacturers themselves, which of course targets no one that's currently on the market except for Tesla. But Tesla store employees, Tesla owners, Tesla fans all attended a hearing, the legislature, and pushed back on this. And to their credit, Indiana has amended the bill to grandfather in Tesla. They're standing by the ban on sales directly from auto manufacturers for reasons you're going to hear in a second. But they went ahead and grandfathered in Tesla, noting that Tesla has established themselves as a quality company making a quality product. This is Indiana. If you are in Indiana or near there, it's Indiana House Bill 1592. This will still go to the Senate. But here is State Representative, and this is the guy you're going to hear from, Ed Soliday, said this in the meeting just before voting for the amended bill took place, which, by the way, it passed by a vote of 9-1. So take a listen to what Representative Soliday has to say.
So let me reiterate that contrary to what you read on the internet and some of the testimony yesterday, the concern of colleagues I've talked to is, where do we go in the future in an internet world? And the Tesla model is somewhere between a total internet sales and what we do today. So we all have to find ways to change, but at the same time, we have evolved into a consumer protection legislation that very few people understand, particularly people who are active on the internet, that if there, for example, is a warranty problem and people are saying the warranty is not fixing or whatever, the Secretary of State's office can go to the dealer and inspect the records at any time. And anyone selling vehicles has to be registered in the state of Indiana, period. So how do we continue with consumer protection as we go through into areas we've never thought of before? And the more I read and the more I look at things, the more I know I don't know. So I see this process as iterative. I think the agreement that we have worked out in my proposal to the various stakeholders is a step in the right direction. So it's respectful to the fact that Tesla also, but Tesla has demonstrated that they can build a quality product and they can maintain it. Now they're entering a new world themselves, and that is the mass market. So what we've done in the amendment is try to respect what they've been able to do, but at the same time limit the ability to enter that market without demonstrating that a new manufacturer can actually perform at a standard that assures safety for our consumers.
I have to give credit here. This actually seems very measured and very reasonable. You heard Representative Soliday say, quote, "This makes certain that we are only allowing this kind of sales with people that have demonstrated consumer service and accountability," end quote. So, and Tesla has done that. So that's great to see. In fact, Tesla themselves gave a statement, pardon me, to this, saying, quote, "Tesla applauds Chairman Ed Soliday and the members of the Roads and Transportation Committee for amending this legislation to allow Tesla to continue investing and growing in the Hoosier state," end quote. I want to say about this, good on you, Tesla owners and employees and free market supporters and Tesla fans, for showing up and quite literally making your voices heard on this, because you affected change in the state of Indiana, change that I think just about every, I certainly believe, and I think just about every Tesla fan would agree is a positive change here. You showed that the will of the people can make a difference here, which is just it's just great. I mean, that's how it should be. It's great. Electrek, by the way, reported that one Tesla store manager, before the bill was amended, actually teared up while speaking at the public hearing, telling a story about a 12-year-old boy who comes into the store and hangs out, comes in with his parents and hangs out every Friday. Every Friday comes in because he just loves the cars and he loves Tesla so much, which I so relate to, because I was that kid. I didn't have, now, you know, my other big love, DeLorean, was long gone by the time I was old enough to go hang out in a dealership or a store for something. But that 12-year-old kid absolutely would be me if I were 12 right now in the world of Tesla's rise here as they have, you know, established themselves on the market. So I want to give huge thumbs up, huge props to that kid for just again, that enthusiasm. I have been very fortunate in my career to basically have that enthusiasm fuel my career. I've been so fortunate to work in video game media, first in magazine and now on a website on IGN, but and it really is, that's at the heart of what I do. You know, I have a journalism degree and I have certain skills, but that enthusiasm is why IGN hired me. It's why OXM hired me back out of college. So I love that enthusiasm in that 12-year-old boy, and I would bet you, again, I know his interests can change, he's only 12, but I'll bet there's a good chance that 12-year-old kid is working for Tesla in 10 to 15 years from now, because I can look right at my own life and see that it's possible, and that passion and that enthusiasm can absolutely fuel and propel you to a career doing what you love. So good job, everybody that went out and made their voice heard in Indiana, and Tesla will continue to be able to do business in the Hoosier state. Next this week, this is a really fun little story. I like this one. This one is worth looking up the video for if you get a chance. Lithuania is trying to woo Tesla to get Gigafactory 2. I've been over this before, that Gigafactory 2 is on the table. Elon has said they want to build one in Europe. So we've seen European countries sort of vie for it a little bit, make little public outreach and overtures. That's the word I was looking for. Well, 41 gamers in Lithuania are trying to woo Tesla to get Gigafactory 2, and their pitch is that they built Gigafactory 2 in Minecraft, and it's awesome. 41 this is via Electrek. Thanks to them for the story. The courtesy goes to them. 41 gamers in Lithuania spent 2 days building and live streaming a mock-up of Tesla's Gigafactory inside Minecraft, which, for those of you who aren't familiar, is effectively the video game. It's Lego in video game form. If you have any children in your life, be they your children, nieces, nephews, etc., you're probably on some level familiar with Minecraft. But it is a sandbox game where you can build anything that your imagination conjures up. But as Electrek notes, this project wasn't all fun and games. It also makes some points about the suitability of the area for Gigafactory. They actually built this into the pitch video. The site they picked was Kruonis, a small town in central Lithuania, which is a, quote, free economic zone close to 2 international airports within close radius of 1.3 million inhabitants. And finally, the town is also apparently near good sources of wind energy and has some green energy cred, as it is home to the only pumped hydro plant in the Baltic states, notes Electrek. So I watched the video. Again, I encourage you to do so as well because it's really good. It's a fast forward time lapse. You know, you're seeing it. It's like a 2 or 3 minute video, and they built the thing. They actually constructed it as if they were, the real thing was going to get built. And they built it right down to having 8-bit style Minecraft block solar panels on the roof of the place. I'll tell you, I think this is a smart move to try and get Elon's attention this way. Elon Musk is a known video gamer. I've just talked about it on a recent show. Now, Elon has never specifically mentioned Minecraft until 5 minutes before I recorded this, when he tweeted out their first day of drilling for The Boring Company, and his tweet was Minecraft, and it's him. It's a shot of them, like a big round, bore right where they're going to start drilling. So the odds, and so Elon obviously is familiar with Minecraft, and I was going to say before I saw that tweet that he probably at least knew what Minecraft was anyway, because odds are extremely high that at least one of his 5 kids plays the game, which would guarantee that he's at least familiar with it. But of course, never mind that aside from his kids, Minecraft is literally the most successful video game in the world right now. And as I mentioned, he tweeted about. He tweeted Minecraft. So we know Elon knows what Minecraft is. And remember that Elon has responded to creative public displays like this before. If you recall, Portugal, a contingent of dedicated Tesla owners and fans there, they rallied, they sort of staged a rally to try and get themselves an official Tesla service center by having a big gathering by the water, and they had a big banner that sort of was a plea to Elon. They shot a big photo of the whole thing, and they put it online, and Elon, at one point, he did acknowledge it on Twitter, and guess what? Now there's a service center in Portugal. Now, they're not necessarily directly proportional. Tesla could have been planning one there anyway, but we know that, Elon does respond to creative outreach like this. So good on you, Lithuania, and those 41 Minecraft players who spent the time to not only make this, but take it from, I know it's not quite an apples to apples comparison, but take it from me as somebody who does this podcast every week and who is familiar with Minecraft. The planning of that project takes longer than actually building it. Like when I do this podcast, it takes hours to plan it and then like 1 hour to record it. And I guarantee it's the same way, especially the time-lapse video for this Minecraft Gigafactory will make that abundantly clear. They had to plan that whole thing out of where they were going to put stuff, how they were going to do it. And I would bet the farm that the planning took more time than the 2 days they actually spent building it. So thumbs up to you Minecraft gamers who worked on this project in Lithuania. Next this week, this was a bit of a surprise to me. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety dinged the Model S, pardon my phrasing there for reasons that will become clear momentarily. They dinged the Model S for having only an adequate safety on impacts up front. But the problem in typical Tesla fashion, has already been fixed. The IIHS says that a problem with the seatbelt, the front seatbelt, prevented the Model S from achieving a good rating on the small overlap front crash test. Here is the IIHS's own words. The Model S, a luxury sedan, earns good ratings in all IIHS crashworthiness evaluations except the challenging small overlap front crash test, in which it earns an acceptable rating. Despite lengthening the side curtain airbags to improve small overlap protection in the Model S, Tesla ran into problems in the test when the safety belt allowed the dummy's torso to move too far forward. That allowed the dummy's head to hit the steering wheel hard enough through the airbag. Measurements from the dummy indicated that injuries to the head along with the lower right leg would be possible in a real-world crash of the same severity. Now, this apparently only affects 2016 Model S's because as we know, as we've talked about many times before, Tesla is constantly implementing changes to the cars on a week-to-week basis. They don't wait for model years. The cars are constantly iterated. And in fact, Tesla says that it implemented a production change to fix the seatbelt last week, and that it now expects the vehicle to achieve the top rating once again. The IIHS confirmed that it will test the updated vehicle as soon as possible and update the rating, which I would suspect would be in 1 to 2 months from now if the production change went into effect last week. What I found interesting about this, and again, the video is interesting, but this is good audio too, I feel like. The IIHS released a video of the Model S crash test. So I found this interesting because I've never heard this, nor do I ever want to hear this in real life. But if you've ever wanted to hear what it sounds like for a Model S to hit something, a frontal crash at 40 miles an hour, here's the audio of that. This is from the crash test. So hopefully you will never hear this in your own Tesla or in any other car. But here it is. Here's what a Model S sounds like when it hits a concrete wall at 40 miles an hour. Not a pleasant sound. One that I hope I never hear in my Model 3 or, quite frankly, any other car. And I wish the same for all of you as well. By the way, the IIHS also rated, with no explanation, the Model S's headlights as poor. They called them poor, which they also rated the Chevy Bolt and some other vehicles, which their headlight rating fared better. And I did double check. I double checked this. They are referring to the revised LED headlights from the front end refresh that happened actually almost a year ago, about 11 months ago now. They said, quote, the 2017 Model S isn't available with anything other than poor rated headlights. Tesla says it is working with its supplier to improve the headlights, and IIHS will evaluate the new ones when they're available. So I have to wonder, of course, how does that bode for Model 3? You know, when you think about it, because it's a less expensive car. It's probably not going to have as fancy of a headlight, or at the very, it's probably not going to have a better headlight than it might be the same quality, the same caliber, but it's unlikely to be superior to the Model S headlight. But it just leads me to wonder, is the headlight supplier set for Model 3? Will it be better than what we have now? Or is Tesla making the Model 3 headlight themselves because we know they're an increasingly vertically integrated company who has taken on more and more of the car's unique parts internally by itself. So, and if Tesla is doing the headlights internally, have they now possibly made any changes based on this report with the Model S? Have they maybe said, all right, let's take another look at the Model 3 headlights we've got, and okay, you know what, let's redo them. Not necessarily the shape or the appearance, but the lighting caliber, the lighting quality of them. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to keep an eye on at Model 3 reveal Part 3, which I would assume will occur at night, because that's when just about every Tesla event has occurred at night. And that actually makes me think too, I wonder if they're going to have more test rides at Model 3 reveal Part 3. I sure hope so. I'm hoping to get to go. We'll have to wait and see, but it would be really cool to get another test ride to see, how things have come along versus riding in that initial prototype 11 months ago, or by the time the reveal Part 3 event happens, it'll be a full year prior. Next up, a new report made public by the California Department of Motor Vehicles reveals that Tesla operated 4 Model X's completely autonomously on California roads in 2016, totaling 550 autonomous miles. The report, it's anybody that has a permit, has permission from the California DMV to test autonomous vehicles, to operate autonomous vehicles. This is all data that gets publicly reported at the end of the year. And so the report goes into disengagements, which is the number of times that a human had to intervene with the car. So the number of times the autonomous driving disengaged. Tesla had 168 such disengagements across these 4 vehicles and 550 autonomous miles, which was a higher rate than most of the other cars in the report, such as the Waymo from Google's Alphabet, not chapter, they're the Alphabet arm of the company. But, this doesn't mean a lot. This is all still very much work in progress. Yes, Tesla was lagging behind Google on this one, but remember that Tesla iterates much faster than pretty well anybody else can, and it also collects a lot more data than everyone else can, thanks to fleet learning. So again, even though the cars aren't level 4 capable yet, or level 5, they're still collecting telemetry data from autopilot and the cameras and sensors and the hardware 2 suite, and hardware 1 suites for that matter, on a daily basis. So Tesla will get there. But I thought that was an interesting little nugget to throw out to everybody regardless. What have I got? Just 2 more quick stories this week. First up, if you have a Model X or you're planning to buy one, and if you bought one and didn't get the premium upgrades package, which I think is like $4,500, but you'd still like to have bioweapon defense mode, Tesla's now selling those HEPA filters that are needed for that for a cost of $750, which I presume is the installed price. So this is also relevant for those of you who are considering a Model X and want bioweapon defense mode, but might not want the rest of the premium upgrades package. So you'll be able to bring your car in to a service center after you take delivery, and $750, you've got yourself the big, bad, awesome HEPA filters needed to enable BioWare Defense Mode. Here is the description from Tesla's site. Retrofit your Model X with the Enhanced Air Quality Package. This package includes Bioweapon Defense Mode functionality enabled and a new HEPA filter. Replace your current filter with a HEPA filter that is capable of providing cleaner air within the Model X cabin when compared to the outside atmosphere, end quote. So I gotta say, $750, that sounds pretty reasonable to me, and it falls fairly in line with another what I feel is a useful aftermarket upgrade that, again, in my opinion, is very reasonably priced, and that's the LTE data upgrade. So for all of the Model X, the S's, produced through, I don't quite remember when they made the change, but it's at least up, I want to say through, I think it's into 2014. No, I think it's even into 2015, because my boss's boss, Per, he has a May 2015 car, and his did not have, he was a 3G car. So yeah, cars up into 2015. You can get the LTE upgrade for your S. That's $500, and I always thought that was pretty reasonable. So $750 for these super awesome HEPA filters that'll give you bioweapon defense mode. That seems pretty reasonable to me. Finally, this week, just a quick note to mark your calendars for if you're interested in following along yourself, or of course for the podcast, my show here that'll follow. Mark your calendars, February 22nd at 2:30 p.m. Pacific. That is when Tesla will announce their Q4 2016 and full financial year 2016 results. As usual with those, it's pretty safe to expect some good Elon quotes, and thus, as always, I will have parsed through the whole thing, and I will have the highlights for you here so that you don't have to sit through the whole thing, and we'll talk about all that stuff. So that's going to be an episode of this show to look forward to. And I think, given the timing of it, the fact that it's going to be in late February, I think there's a pretty good chance that Elon's going to say something about the Model 3 Part 3 reveal event, whether he mentions something about the date or the substance of the event or both. In fact, I would expect if he doesn't address it himself, he'll probably get asked about it on the call. So look for that. Again, if you want to check it out yourself, February 22nd, 2:30 p.m. Otherwise, the following, that Sunday when I post my show up, let's see, that'll be the 26th, or of course a little earlier for you Patreon subscribers. But yeah, I'll be covering that one in detail on the February 26th episode. That's all the news this week. As usual, there are a good handful of excellent Ride the Lightning hotline calls from you fine folks, so I'll get to those for you right after this. All right, we're going to kick off the Ride the Lightning hotline this week with a couple of Minnesota boys. Brian from Minneapolis, Tim from Minnesota. We'll also hear from Gary in Southern California, and a caller as well from India. Our first call from India, to my knowledge, on the podcast, in my memory anyway. But of course, this is the Ride the Lightning hotline portion of the show where you can participate, ask a question, you leave a comment, discussion topic. I love this part of the show. Please participate. Call in anytime. The toll-free number is 1-888-989-8752. That's 1-888-989-TSLA. You can also email your questions. If you record them on your voice memo app on your phone, email them into teslapodcast@gmail.com. But by the way, if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. And I thank lifeonrecord.com for really believing in this podcast very, very early on and kindly providing the the hotline. They set the whole thing up. It's all from them. So thanks to them. And let's kick it off. Brian from Minneapolis responds to my comment from last week's show about whether or not Model 3 autopilot would be sort of fully functional, not level 4 obviously, but level 2, whether, or maybe who knows where they're at by then, but whether or not it's going to be functional on day one, or if there's going to be this sort of calibration period that the hardware 2 S's and X's are going through now. So Brian, you're on the air.
Hey Ryan, this is Brian from Minneapolis. I have a comment and a question inspired by last week's show. Comment is regarding autopilot performance when Model 3 is released. I think actually that with the hardware being probably the same and also the software as with Model X and S, I think that Model 3 is going to pick up right where those cars are at that time and will be pretty good. I don't think there will be a significant learning time or adaptation to the new platform. I think the cameras and the essential hardware bits, as well as the algorithm and the computing platform, will probably be the same one that they just released with Autopilot 2.0. So I'm hopeful, I guess, and I'm kind of thinking that maybe we won't see that much of a hit or a lag between when Model 3 comes out and when the Autopilot is performing pretty decently. My question concerns pricing for Model 3 options. I've seen several sources on YouTube and in the Tesla Model 3 forum talk about numbers in the range of 75 to even 100% of the current cost of equivalent options on Model 3 as are charged for Model S. I personally think that the option prices should scale closer to 50%, given that the base price of Model 3 is about 50% of the base price of Model S. Be interested in your thoughts. This would mean a number for the dual motors option, which came up last week, of maybe $2,500 or $3,000. Batteries and so forth may be similar, and hopefully autopilot more in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. Like you, I'm hoping to load up my Model 3 with as many options as I can afford. Where do you think the option pricing will end up relative to the current options on Model S? Be really interested in your thoughts. Thanks for a great show.
Well, Brian, I hope you're right about autopilot calibration and that it will just transfer right over, picking up where the S leaves off. As for Model 3 pricing, this is obviously a topic, a hot topic for so many of us listening to this podcast, including the host. And it's tough to say. You know, the good news is we have a good indication from Elon that things might be cheaper than on the S or the X as far as the options go, because Elon had said in sort of that tweet storm that followed the Model 3 reveal event that the dual motor option would cost less on the Model 3 than it does, and it's $5,000 on the S, and of course the X is always dual motor. You can't not have it. So I think half the cost, as you're suggesting, might be a bit optimistic as far as the options being half of what they are on the S and X. I'll be pleasantly surprised if it's that low. Obviously, I mean, I think some options might cost the same. You know, the one I look at is actually autopilot and full self-driving capability. It's a total of $8,000 right now on S and X, and if it's the same hardware, there's a decent chance it's going to cost that same $8,000 on the 3. Now, the one probably hole you could poke in that thought is that, well, economies of scale, the sheer volume of Model 3s will allow them to make that hardware suite cheaper. And I hope that's the case. And if that's the case, that cost reduction should also apply to the hardware 2 on S and X because if it's all the same hardware 2 package, and they've got some sweet economies of scale going with hundreds of thousands of cars coming off the line every year, even in that even possibly this year, if not this year, then next year, hopefully. Then again, hopefully we'll see a cost reduction across the board, across the entire fleet of Teslas, the whole lineup. But it is that's one where I don't want to say worry, but I am expecting that to cost $8,000 as of now. I will be pleasantly surprised otherwise. But I think things like the roof options, we know body roof will be included, body color painted roof, and then all glass roof and panoramic roof. I expect those to be pretty similar to their S pricing, which it's actually pretty reasonably priced on the S. So if it's a little cheaper, great. But tire and wheel package I expect to cost a bit less because it's a smaller tire and wheel on the 3. Sound package I would expect to cost a little bit less because it's probably maybe 1 or 2 less speakers in the cabin in the 3. What else? Let's see. Seats. I mean, seats are, you would hope that, again, it might be maybe it's not going to be quite as nice of a seat as the seat in the S and X is called the Tesla Premium seat. So we might not get the premium seat in the 3, or if we do, it'll be, a fairly costly option. But yeah, all told, 50% might be a bit optimistic, but I'm hoping for at least a 25% discount on the 3 on a lot of the options. But it is really, I'm thinking more like it's going to be 2/3 or 3/4 of the cost rather than half the cost. But I plan for the worst and hope for the best, right? So we'll see. That's the option pricing is going to make such a huge difference for everyone. My hope is to check as many of those boxes as possible in the design studio, and if the option pricing could really change the cost of my car, or more likely dictate how many options I'm able to get. So we shall see. Thank you for the call, Brian. Let's move to your fellow Minnesotan. That's Tim in Minnesota. He is curious if he's also got Model 3 on the brain. He's kind of got some thoughts about the timeline of Model 3 and where we are in that timeline. So Tim, take it away.
Hello, Ryan. This is Tim from Minnesota. I'm a regular listener to your podcast, and I'm very glad to hear that Gigafactory is doing better. Now, hopefully, you can increase setting money aside for that new Tesla Model 3. As a Model 3 reservation holder since March 31st of last year, it occurs to me that we may be almost exactly halfway through our wait. We've been waiting for exactly 10 months as of today, and I think that we have another 10 months left to wait. I'm wondering if you still agree with the timing. And then also, based on the delivery numbers that were recently posted for 2016, do you still think that the people who reserved their Model 3 on March 31st will likely qualify for the maximum federal tax credit, or whether it will be diminished a little bit? Thanks for continuing the great work you're doing to put this podcast together. I look forward to it every week. Take care.
Tim, let me get your last question first. So Elon has suggested that he wants everybody who reserved right away on March 31st to be eligible for that full federal tax credit. And he said that back when he first laid out the big ambitious new production goals, when he doubled the company's production goals, he did mention that. But unfortunately, it's just impossible to say. There are just too many variables. If you're on the East Coast and you order a base model car, your chances are going to be lower of getting the full rebate. You still very well might, but your chances will be lower than, say, someone ordering even that same car on the West Coast. It's the good news is, of course, with the full tax credit, it does phase out. You've got the quarter thereafter where it's still the full 7,500. If you qualify for the whole thing, before it starts reducing down to half after that, I think, and then a quarter after that. As for whether or not half our wait is actually over, again, still impossible to say. Because again, the answer might be yes for some people, that the wait's half over, but the answer could also be not even close for others. For instance, certainly, I want to point to our Australian friends, who we have a number of Australian listeners. Their wait is certainly not even close to over, because they're in another territory, another hemisphere, and they're going to be getting right-hand drive cars. So it's that's the unfortunate thing. It's the answer is different for everyone. But again, the good news is that every single indication that we have so far is that things are on track. I really think that Model 3 Reveal Part 3, that should be coming up in a couple months, or maybe even a tad less, should give us a much better idea of where Tesla's at. I want to go now to Gary in Southern California, who raises a significant concern for both current and future Tesla owners, specifically with regards to getting body work done on your car if you happen to find yourself involved in an accident. So Gary, take it away.
Ryan, hi, my name is Gary. I'm calling from Southern California, and this topic today is about the body shop service for Teslas and the apparent backlog and the short supply of repair parts. A friend of mine who has a Tesla, I have a Model 3 reservation, by the way, but my friend has a Model S. His wife drives it. She got rear-ended, and not too bad damage, mostly on one side, quarter panel, lights, etc. And this was 2 months ago. The car is still sitting in the shop in LA, which is in Orange County, and the owner tells me it has not been worked on yet, still waiting for parts, and he was down there recently to see if there was any progress, which there isn't. And he said it looks like a Tesla graveyard down there. There's about 60 Teslas all waiting to be repaired. Some of them look brand new because they still got the paper license plates. And he's really frustrated. He's telling me this could take up to 6 months to get this thing finished with the back order of parts. So this worries me greatly, because I was thinking of changing my Model 3 reservation and buying a Model X. And if I got in an accident, I wouldn't have a car to replace it, and I just couldn't wait that long for a replacement car, repaired car, or even here they're not providing that length of time. Anyway, so I think it's pretty significant. If this is not, corrected with the Model 3, it's going to be a major problem for Tesla. I'm a big Tesla fanboy, but this really worries me a lot.
These are all valid concerns here, Gary. I'll tell you, my friend Greg, who lives up in Marin County, which is the North Bay here in San Francisco, across the Golden Gate Bridge, he was telling me a similar story, because he actually had a fender bender in his own car, and it took service, trying to get the thing fixed was not a quick process, or certainly not one as quick as he would like. So he tells me, and so does my boss Per, who lives up that way, that Teslas are everywhere up in Marin. In fact, Per makes the joke that the Model S is like the Marin Camry. that's his joke, which I always get a crack up out of, and it's from driving around up there a little bit every now and again. He's not far off, but Per, in fact, did have a fender bender and was without his car for a while, and I would say for sure Marin, and no doubt where you are down, just Southern California in general, is an extreme example of what happens when there aren't enough Tesla authorized body shops. And I'll tell you, just the fact that those are areas where Tesla's popular absolutely does not excuse the fact that it's a problem. It is a problem. And as you note, it's not a good sign for Model 3. Let's be real. It is not. When you're looking at, when Tesla, forget about the Model 3s, just focus on the fact that Tesla is likely to add another 100,000 just S's and X's combined on the roads for this year, not even factoring in the 3. So the fact, these hotspots like the Bay Area in general, but specifically Marin and your neck of the woods in Southern California, these are significant issues that Tesla does need to address, and address them soon, because things do happen, and you need body work, and you don't want to be without a car for weeks or months. That's absurd. That's one of the biggest growing pains that Tesla has to overcome. But I will say, if you like the X, Gary, and you're prepared to buy it, I still wouldn't let this stop you for a few reasons. Hear me out here. Number one, you might have rental car coverage on your auto insurance in case your X did happen to end up in the body shop for a little while. I've actually had I've had body work twice this year for very minor, like just paint level things. But I'm fortunate. I have State Farm, and everybody's got something different, and it's different in different areas. But I have rental car insurance on there. It was all covered, no problem. But so odds are you probably have rental car coverage on your insurance policy. Number two, there's no guarantee that waiting for the 3 is going to solve the problem in any way, which I know that's dark. That is not a pleasant thought, but that's reality. You got to look at it that way. So if you're interested in the X, there's no guarantee that waiting for the 3 is going to solve anything. And I'll say number 3, the X is such a unique vehicle. I mean, it does a lot that the 3 won't. The storage space wise, I guess you could get an all-wheel drive 3 if you want, but it's standard on the X. The Falcon Wing doors, the 3 rows, just the sheer size of it, if you want that bigger vehicle. So, the X does a lot that the 3 isn't going to do. So I'll tell you, Gary, if you've got your eye on the X, hey, go for it. And by the way, if you wouldn't mind, if you do, please use the referral code that I've been giving out, if you don't mind, to help try and nudge me maybe towards first to 20 to get that free Tesla. But the bottom line, though, is that, again, your concern is extremely valid. This is a problem that I think not a lot of people are thinking about. With certainly future Tesla owners, we're not thinking about it because we don't have the cars yet. But you current Model S and X owners probably don't think about it unless something happens, as it did for Pear and as it did for you. So Tesla, I really hope that they're aware of this, but they've got to be aware of this. And hopefully they're actively trying to solve these issues, again, particularly in those Tesla hotspots like the North Bay and in Southern California. So thank you, Gary, for that call. Finally, I want to take our first caller from India, and I want to sincerely apologize that I listened back to this a bunch of times. I just couldn't quite catch the gentleman's name at the beginning. But our caller from India asks about the viability of buying a second-hand Tesla. So I wanted to address this because this is always a good topic to refresh on from time to time. So, sir, go ahead.
Hey, this is Apramaya here from India. My question is about buying second-hand Teslas. What do you think about the second-hand market for buying a Tesla? Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you, I would say go for it, because a second-hand Tesla is going to come with free unlimited lifetime supercharging, whether it's from a private sale or Tesla corrected themselves after it wasn't because of me, but they ended up, it appeared that CPOs were going to have their supercharger policy reset. That is not the case, according to John McNeil. He did step in and correct that, which was great. Of course, there aren't any superchargers in India yet. I did take a look, but I'm sure, India is such a just big market that I have to imagine Tesla is going to be tapping into that market fairly soon, because they'd be foolish not to. But to get back to your question about whether it's a good idea to buy a secondhand Tesla, I would say go for it if that's what makes the most sense for you, because remember that there are exponentially fewer moving parts on a Tesla and just less wear and tear in general on a Tesla with, say, 30,000 miles or more on it than there is on a comparable internal combustion engine vehicle. So what I would suggest, though, just make sure you do your homework, which hopefully this podcast is helping you out on in some small way, but I'm sort of referring specifically to the specific cars that you're looking at, whether it's on Tesla's site or elsewhere. You know, you want to find the best battery size for you and for your needs, what options are important to you. And here's what I'm really talking about with research. Because, as I mentioned earlier, you know, everybody knows that Tesla doesn't wait for model years to introduce changes. They introduce them literally on a weekly basis. Most of the time, they are literal and figurative under the hood changes that aren't sort of immediately noticeable to the driver or anything that the car looks like or does. But over time, the standard options, the things on a Tesla have changed. So, you know, make sure when you figure out what you're looking at, if it's a 2014 car, for instance, does it have autopilot? So you're going to look for tech package and autopilot. Some of the 2014s don't, because it came online in fall of 2014. So you might want to see if the car has autopilot. See if it, depending on how early a car it is, it might not have parking sensors or even power folding mirrors. And maybe that's totally okay for your use case and for what you're looking for. But just when you zero in on a car that you're interested in, find out what the build month is. You know, if it's an August 2014 car, then do some research on what the August 2014 Model S's have and don't have. So that'll help you make the most informed and educated decision possible. So best of luck in your shopping. Hopefully you're going to be enjoying a Tesla very, very soon. That wraps it up for the Ride the Lightning Hotline. Thanks to everybody who called in. Got a few of you who are going to be in the Patreon exclusive bonus episode. That's just all the extra calls that I can't get to on the week-to-week basis, lest the show be 2 hours long. So that is actually going up this weekend. Well, probably as you hear this, in fact, that Patreon exclusive bonus episode will be live for the month of February. So that's for everybody who kindly donates at the $10 or higher level. And let me actually give you the names real quick of the people who are going to be heard on that. That is going to be our friend DJ from North Central Ohio, Marcus from Sweden, Lawton from Chicago, our old friend there, Richard from Bournemouth, Philip, I believe is his name, from Massachusetts, Jamon from Hamilton in Ontario, Canada, and Mike from Charlottesville, another frequent caller. So all of you kind folks are going to be featured on the Patreon exclusive episode, which again you can find just by logging in to Patreon if you are a backer of this podcast. So with that, I will be right back. Few parting words for you here right after this. All right, real quick, I want to mention the referral code. As I mentioned a couple weeks ago, the referral program has an interesting new twist in it, and that is the first person in each region, my region being North America, the first person to 20 referrals gets a free Tesla. So I am very blessed and fortunate to have a growing podcast audience, and if there's any way I could get that would make the dream come true. That would be the most incredible thing ever for me. So if you are considering buying a Tesla and you are considering doing it soon, get yourself $1,000 off and get me one step closer to that free Tesla. So here is the referral code. Just punch this into your browser. It's a short link. It's ts.la/Jeff2311. That's Jeff spelled Jeff. ts.la/Jeff2311. AbstractOcean.com is another place to get a discount, even if you're not buying. You don't have to buy a car, just buy stuff for your Tesla, or even just fun accessories if you're not a Tesla owner. AbstractOcean.com's got cool stuff like LED lighting kits. If you are a Tesla owner, they've got the silicone key fob pockets. They've got cool lanyards, other stuff. So if you want to check out that site at AbstractOcean.com, if you see something you like and you want to buy it, you can get yourself 20% off by using the coupon code RTL Podcast at checkout. I mentioned the Patreon earlier. I would love it if you'd at least take a look at the Patreon, if maybe consider any little bit helps if you want to back me up here. And again, a lot of work goes into the show. Appreciate everybody that does pledge there. The site is patreon.com. That's Patreon. Patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Dave T's weekly Tesla newsletter. He does a great job summing up the week for you in a weekly, every Friday. It's a little email digest. You can sign up for free at teslaweekly.com. Teslarati.com, they do an awesome job of covering Tesla sort of day by day. They're always on top of Tesla news, so check them out if you haven't already. Let's see here. Follow me on Twitter at DMC_Ryan. And again, you can always email me just if you want to type something up, or if you wanted to make a Ride the Lightning hotline recording right on your phone and just email it to me. You can do that. The email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com. And that'll about wrap it up. Most of you subscribe to the show. That's the probably most convenient thing to do, because then it's just delivered right to you. You don't have to actually go out and manually initialize, oh my goodness, any downloads. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, or pick up the RSS feed, or there are also MP3 downloads on the hosting site, which is teslapodcast.libsyn.com. Libsyn spelled Libsyn. And I'll wrap up by thanking the very awesome Patreon producers. These are the kind folks that support the podcast at the $20 or higher level. So I want to thank Jeff Bartram, Paul Hussey, DJ Harbaugh, Pete White, Wolfgang Obergen, George Cassiopo, ZL Klein, David Brander, Nick Hoffman, Jonathan Wales, John Waltauer, Scott Gillis, Michael Lucas, Alexi Heft, David Kittle, Lisa Kaz, Michael O'Prey, Logan Willis, Matthew Parra, Michael Lester, John E. Ford, and Robert Miracle. Thank you all so much for your continued support. And thanks to everybody who, again, kindly gives me an hour or so of your time each week. I know your time is valuable, and I do appreciate the trust to spend it with me, to spend an hour a week with me. So happy electric motoring, everybody, and I'll see you all here next week.